Greetings, everyone. This is Payman Lorenzo, your host of the Leaders Out podcast. Today, this afternoon, tonight, wherever in this beautiful planet you may be, I have once again another wonderful guest for you, my good friend, Dawn Pensack from New Jersey, not far from me right now. Wow. We connected once again from this wonderful, wonderful community of the Serving Circle back in December. We had a chat around just before Christmas, and we made a promise to book a time that's going to work for both of us after the holidays. And here we are today. So, what can I say about Dawn? Wow, she's a wonderful lady. She has a tremendous love and passion for learning. She's crazy curious. She loves going down the rabbit holes when it comes to geeking out on things and learning as much as she can on pretty much everything. She's fascinated by learning, exploring all different ideas. She really loves being outside in the nature, hiking, horse riding, exploring new places. She's adventurous, very much similar to me. I'm the same as well. And just like me, she's a cheerleader. She loves, motivating, inspiring, empowering people to go after their dreams. Exactly like me. She's a connector. Again, we have a lot in common. That's going to be a good one. And also she really loves learning new ways to be more conscious about the world, about the planet, how to be more eco-friendly, respecting the environment and all that good stuff. So she's a truly heart-centered person. And I can say, even before starting the conversation, that she's a true leader with a heart. That's why she's here. If she wasn't, she wouldn't be here, And she's doing a lot of good things. She's an EFT practitioner who helps entrepreneurs align with the moon cycle. That's something I'm extremely intrigued by. That I can't wait to learn more about that. And in order to help them with unique energies to allow more ease and flow in the business. So this is a wonderful episode and I can't wait to get this going. So, Don, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks so much for having me. So excited to be here.
Pleasure's on mine. So, as I told you last time when we spoke, the kind of conversation I like to have is to look under the hood to see what's in your heart, to have a heart-to-heart conversation. Hence the name "Leaders with a Heart." Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do
All
it.
right. Okay. So, for people who don't know you, who's Don as a person, as a human being? We're going to talk about your business a little bit later on, but for now, tell us, as a human being, as a person, who's Don?
Well, as you mentioned, I was just born with this massive amount like curiosity just explodes from every ounce of my soul. And I love learning. I love learning new things. I I have a huge heart for being outside, for exploring, for animals. I've always loved
Even in
animals.
winter when it's freezing?
I yes, even in winter when it's freezing, I love
Wow.
being outside, put the snowshoes on, bundle up. Actually, the winter is my favorite time to ride my
Wow.
horse.
Oh,
So in the
yes.
snow and yeah, it's just so fun. And he loves it too. It's his season. The winter is his season for
Wow.
sure.
Beautiful.
So yeah, so I love, you can always find me outside. I love to relax and I love to play hard. As I love to work hard and I love to play hard.
Love that. Love that. So, we're going to unpack all of that. But tell us now, what makes you happy?
When I'm learning, when I'm
Mm.
expanding my mind in some way, like I can get lost in books. I just have books upon. I actually in 2021, I did kind of a book detox.
Wow.
And I didn't let myself buy any new like physical new books for like 6 months. So for Christmas, that was all I wanted on my list was all of these different books, and I got them. So I'm super excited for this year to dive back in. But I can get lost in learning. My sun sign is Sagittarius, and I have a stellium in that sign. So it's like just learning and expansion times 100, and I love it. It fuels my soul in so many different ways when I'm learning.
I
Yeah.
love books too. I'm an avid reader myself as well. And lately, I haven't read as many because it's being so busy. But one of my goals is when I can finally, rest a little bit, relax. I want to be just surround myself with a few awesome books and read one book a week. and just
Mm.
not only just for business, but also I love those adventure books to go to places, especially
Yeah.
sci-fi and the different galaxies and planets and with aliens and whatnot. I
Mm.
even go back in time with Christopher Columbus or the Egyptians or the Greek. I just love that. It's one of the best ways to travel.
Yeah. And it's such a great way to connect with others as well. Like I read with my daughter every night. She's almost 10. So, we have our time together every night,
Nice.
our time together every morning, reading, taking turns, and just connecting with anybody over a book is such a powerful experience because we all interpret, the words in such different ways. So, yeah,
Are you
so
part?
fun.
Are you part of any book clubs?
Yes, I actually am leading a book club.
Wow.
The book is A Happy Pocket Full of Money,
Okay.
and we meet every 2 weeks and we talk almost every day in a chat, just kind of digesting the information, and it is awesome. Like I just love it. I love meeting with other
Oh yeah.
people regularly
Beautiful.
about it.
And you,
Yeah.
you said it perfectly. A book can be one of the most powerful connectors at bringing people together to share their views, what they learn, the lesson they get from a book. Because we can, three people can read the same book and we can each get something different. And when we share that, that's when the magic happens because we all learn together.
Yes, that's so true. We all
Mhm.
like different things resonate with us in such different ways, which is why I love, the book club is such a great way to chat about it and
Absolutely.
see how see how we're all interpreting it and what perspective we're bringing to the table.
Awesome. Now,
Yeah.
tell us what makes you smile.
Being outside. I love being outside, and if I'm outside with my family, we're doing something. I love very open-ended things. So I don't really like planned activities so much, like if we're going to you know, a amusement park or if we're planning a trip, I like to be very spontaneous. So in the summer or in the spring when it's a little bit warmer, just taking my kids down to the trails to go for a hike and just getting lost in exploring the creeks and the ponds and the different tadpoles and all of that. So that makes me smile a lot. And I will say the other thing that I realized over COVID, my COVID project, I guess you could say, is getting chickens. So we have a couple acres. We got some
Oh,
chickens, we set up, and I love them. Like I absolutely love them. So if I'm sitting outside, I put a blanket down. They're super nosy. They want to come over and check out everything. So when it's nice out, I love to just, take my kids outside. We'll bring some projects out there. We'll bring some books out there and we'll just hang out with the chickens. And that always makes me smile.
that's amazing. And then also running
Yeah.
after the chicken can be one of the best forms of exercising. Good luck trying to catch one.
Yes, yes. They
Wow.
can be pretty smart when they don't
Oh
wanna
yeah.
get go back
Wow,
in the
that's a
coop.
good one. That's a good one. Now, let's take the happiness factor a couple of notches even higher. Now, tell us what makes you come alive? What makes your heart sing?
Mhm. When I'm leading a group, when I'm doing something with a group, it really fills my soul. It energizes me in so many different ways. I was a teacher for 10 years. I
Oh, wow.
worked in a couple different schools. I started my teaching career in New York City in a very, very challenging environment. And I had to learn presence. I had to learn rapport. I had to learn a lot of leadership skills,
Sure.
especially in my first few years teaching. So I love working with groups, and it just it just absolutely fills my soul and energizes me in so many different ways. Seeing how people are interacting with one another, choreographing different experiences for them to elevate their conversations, really being intentional about the questions and the activities that I'm creating. So anything with the group energy, energy of the collective, getting people together, bringing people together to have conversations, to look at things in different ways, to learn something new. That is so fun for me. So much fun.
Love that. Love that.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about the other side of the spectrum. What makes you sad and angry?
Mm. So when I feel suffocated, it's it's really hard for me to um like if I feel suppressed, or if I like, COVID was really hard, especially that first, year. My kids were home. I was homeschooling. I was running my business. I was trying to, and all the restrictions. And and to be honest, I'm very blessed in so many ways. We have a couple acres. We have trails all around. You know what I mean? Like it's not like um I'm definitely was very, very privileged and very lucky during that time, but it was really, really hard emotionally to be home and kind of stuck, and my kids couldn't see their friends, and we couldn't see, family. So when I feel like I'm being suppressed in some way, or when I get lost in all the tasks and all the busyness of life, like the phone call, like all the little things, the little phone calls, the little tasks to take care of, like the dog license for the new year, like taking care of that, paying the bills, all that kind of stuff really drains me. And it just, excuse me, it takes away a lot of my joy in connecting with others, talking, um, learning, right? Like all of the things that I love. It's, you know,
Uh,
it's just like soul sucking for
yeah.
me.
Now, one thing you said that I can relate totally, as you said, you're blessed to have space around you because, especially and during this pandemic, like for us, we live in a small town outside of Toronto, and on the countryside. So we have a house and we have a lot of things, a lot less strict here. I could not. I'm grateful that we're not in a condo inside the big city because I would not have been able to handle it. Being stuck in
Hmm.
a shoebox. We have lots of room outside, especially when it's warm outside. I love going on long 2-3 hour biking runs, or just walking around. That's something that I could not have been able to do if I wasn't in a big city in Toronto. I'm sure it's the same thing in New York City, but you
Hmm.
being on the in the countryside, having a couple of acres, that's indeed a blessing because we all need to be out in the nature. Especially you love nature, running around with your animals, with the chickens, with your horses. That's the best medicine to overcome any type of virus, you know?
Hmm. Yeah. I honestly don't know what I would have done if I wasn't able to go outside. And I have a friend who lives in Panama City who lives in an apartment, and she got really sick during COVID. Like really, she was just like, I there's just something that doesn't feel right. She went to a doctor, and the doctor actually said, you feel this way because your feet have not touched the earth for, 6, 8 months, however long it was. She's like, you need to get outside at night and just stand in the grass, just even if it's for a minute or whatever. But she's like, I mean, we need that. We need the sun. We need nature. We need
Yes.
to be connected.
Our body
Yeah.
needs the sun, vitamin D for our bones, for everything. The sun is
Yeah.
the greater generator of our it's a giver of life for all living creatures on this planet,
Hmm.
you know?
Yes.
So absolutely. Wow, amazing. Now tell us, Don, what scares you other than spiders?
Actually, spiders don't scare me too
Really?
much.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess because like where I live, I'm used to seeing
Okay.
all
Yes,
kinds of
yes. Yeah, yeah.
all kinds of creatures. So what scares me is I have a lot of fears around the way, like, our education system. And
Wow.
having two kids, a 10-year-old, a 6-year-old, and my 6-year-old is not your cookie cutter student. He's like me. He's the explorer. He needs a lot of physical activity, and ever since he was 2, right, I knew that he wasn't going to, especially being a teacher, I knew he wasn't going to fit into the mold of like a good student. And since he was 3, he's had some challenges, with classroom, fitting into the classroom and following the rules, um and just different things because his body needs the movement. So we were so lucky to find a kindergarten that that's perfect for him and perfect for kids who need, the movement, who need the activity. And he's had a lot of therapy for occupational therapy and speech therapy and different things like that. But my biggest fear is sending him to public school
Mhm.
where the 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 way that schools are operating is the same way that they were operating decades ago, right? And our kids are changing. The skills that our kids will need in the future, like I never ever 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 want him to lose that desire to move and be free and use his body in different ways and explore, right? And learn like differently than maybe what's being taught or what is um expected. So my biggest fear is that we're teaching our children who are so different in so many ways, um, and a lot of them are losing their greatest gifts because of our education system and the creativity and their passion for learning, and COVID did give me an amazing blessing in homeschooling because I was able to see a lot of what I knew, but I kind of wasn't like I knew, but I didn't really know, um, with my daughter being in third grade at the time. So that's my fear. I would love to see our children being celebrated for their differences and magnifying their special unique gifts
Thank you.
in
Yes.
so many ways, and like let's get the curiosity, you know like let's expand their curiosity instead of shutting it down and trying to put them in a box. So I mean, Payman, it's so scary for me to think about
Yes.
this, and it's something that I think about all the time. And my son's unique situation and his personality, he's also a Sagittarius. He's actually a double Sagittarius, so he's got
Wow.
like the explore, expand, curious thing like magnified. So I can really resonate with a lot of his challenges. But yeah, that is one of my biggest fears for sure. I stay awake
Yes.
often at night thinking, what can we do? Like, what can we do to help our children in this new world, right? Where things are so different.
I agree
Um,
with you, and I'm grateful I don't have any kids here now because I wouldn't want my kids to go to the normal public schooling, at least here in Ontario and Toronto. Is probably much the same thing in the U.S. because the horrible things I see, the horrible agendas and trying to suppress people, and suppressing especially boys and all that, and I, I can't see myself. And yes, we mentioned something that we can do an entire, not just episode, but entire podcast on a very very important topic, which is homeschooling. You know, especially more and more an option for parents that want to have give their kids a normal education, not one that is skewed toward one way or another, and all that, teaching them healthy, values, healthy lessons, letting them be free in a way to explore the curiosity, explore the world without being told what to do and suppressed and all that. So yeah. So even though this is not about homeschooling, and that's something that we can do an entire podcast just on that. So share with us maybe a couple of tips for parents that are looking now to homeschooling or sick and tired of the public school system. Do you have, so what is basically homeschooling? How do you learn that? How do you do that? I mean, again, we can do an entire episode just on that, but
yeah.
so when, of course,
So
you said you have a background of 10 years as an educator, as a teacher, but someone that doesn't have this background, how can they, so basically, how can they get into homeschooling if they're not by profession or whatever, a teacher?
yeah, that's a great question.
Mhm.
Um, Payment, I'm not really sure. I mean, I homeschooled because I kind of had to last year. My daughter did the virtual school, at the end of 2020, and when I saw that, I said, "Oh my goodness, like I need to." And also she was like zoomed out. She
Yeah.
did was not feeling the whole Zoom for 5 hours or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So my philosophy when my kids were home, my daughter was in third grade, my son was in preschool. He's in kindergarten this year. My philosophy was every single day, no matter what the weather was, we were outside. So we did a hike, we went to the park, playground, something. So we did something every single day in the morning outside. And they had a lot of like exploration time. they had to read every day. They had to, my son was a little different, but my daughter had to read every day. We did math every day. We had curriculums that we followed. And it was it was no stress. Like, it was as low stress as possible because, first of all, the situation we were in, right, was traumatic enough. And for all of us, right, I wanted it to be a fun experience, as fun as it could be. But there's so many different opportunities out there. There's so many different things out there. Co-ops are starting to pop up all over the place as well, which is something, to really look into, because everybody has a skill that they could teach and a gift that they could teach. So parents are bonding together, and one day one parent teaches something, the next day another parent teaches something, so they kind of all share the different roles, which is kind of cool. But I am definitely not an expert in that area. I don't have, every state is also different. I mean, we were lucky in New Jersey. We didn't really have many regulations. I didn't have to follow strict rules or turn, something in. But yeah, lots of things to look into if you do want to explore that route. And there are many challenges, and there are probably many unique challenges for different families, but there's also so many different gifts, as well, and so many blessings as well.
Beautiful, wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful topic that, again, we can do not just an episode, but an entire podcast on that, because that's a really important subject, especially nowadays for parents and soon to be parents. Yes, absolutely. Wow. Now let's move forward. Tell us. I know you're a super talented person, but what would you say is your number one personal superpower?
Oh, I think for me, my superpower really shines when I'm working with a group. In my membership community, I love um, creating and organizing different. Um, I call they're like conversation choreographies, different experiences within the group to help people think about things differently or explore themselves differently, get to know themselves better. So I think my gift is really in the creativity that I can bring to the table in designing different experiences for them. I love, that kind of blends all of my passions together, my love for teaching, my love for communities, my love for bringing people together, my love for creating, right? I love creating different things. And so, and I'm really starting to develop this gift and hone this gift through a group that I joined last year called Exchange. I'm learning so much in this community that really excites me. And as I learn and I bring this to my community, I'm realizing that my superpower is in facilitating workshops and helping people learn themselves better um, and grow, in their understanding, in their acceptance of who they are. So
Awesome. Wow. Phenomenal. I mean, we can do an entire podcast just on that alone because you have so much wisdom and knowledge to share. But let's move forward now. You like traveling, right?
yes.
What was the very first trip you took?
So my very first trip as a child, um, I would have to say summer camps.
Mm,
Every summer I went to summer camp starting from probably like 6 or 7, and that was a long car ride away, in West Virginia. So I was living in Virginia when I was a child. So that was probably my very first, like, big trip. Um, and then I can also remember as a kid going to Chincoteague Island, which was so much fun, right? Seeing
where
the
is
wild
that?
horses. It is Maryland and Virginia. I think we're
Okay.
yeah. And we actually, my family and I went down there last summer, which was crazy with the mosquitoes. Not recommended to go there in when the mosquitoes are bad. It was pretty insane. But as a child, I went there. I remember riding bikes, seeing the wild horses on the beach, and it was really awesome.
What's the name again?
Chincoteague.
I love the
And
name. Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
And actually, we planned that trip because an author that I loved. I think her name is Margaret Henry. She wrote a book called Misty of Chincoteague. And I loved that book so much that my mom was like, well, you know what? It's not that far from us. We were living in Virginia, so maybe it was a five
How
hour
do you
drive or
spell that name? I'm gonna look it up because I love the name.
yeah, it's Chincoteague,
Yeah.
I believe.
Chincoteague. Okay. Has to
Did
be
you find
some.
it?
No, I wrote it down. I will look it up later. Okay. Wow.
Okay,
Awesome.
so maybe I spelled it wrong. So, um, Chincoteague. Yeah, I'm not sure how to spell it, but
No
it's
worries. It's okay. I'll
Chincoteague.
look it up and I'll.
Mhm.
Okay. Now,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. Now, let me take you now on a different type of traveling down memory line. Go back to when you were a young girl, young kid growing up. You know, when we're kids, people around us, family, parents, teachers ask us, so Dawn, what do you want to become when you grow up? What was your answer back then?
So back then, it was always pediatrician
Oh, wow. Why?
because I love kids.
Even as a kid
I,
yourself.
even as a child, I
Wow.
was obsessed with baby dolls. Like obsessed. I mean, it was pretty crazy. My mom actually saved all of my baby dolls for when, I had children, and my daughter was never into dolls. And I think there was over 60 dolls that I ended up donating. And yeah, I absolutely loved dolls. I love taking care of babies. I used to have dreams that my mom adopted a baby, and I would wake up and I'd run into the spare bedroom and like think that there was going to be a baby there. I wanted a little brother or sister so badly. So I was the youngest. And I started babysitting when I was 11. And
Wow.
I just, yeah, that was so pediatrician was what I always said. I want to help babies get better. I want to take care of sick babies, and that didn't quite pan out the way that but
Yeah. Yeah, life has different plans for us. Absolutely. Wow, that's interesting.
yeah,
Okay. Now, let's talk about school. Did you like school? Did you enjoy school or you didn't like it when you were growing up?
I did not care for it, honestly.
Really?
It wasn't until I always did okay. I was always like a B-ish, B
That's pretty
something.
good.
I was,
Yeah.
yeah, like I got by. I did what I needed to do, but I did not love it. And
Was it the
so
teachers?
um, I don't know, honestly. I'm I don't
Because you
know.
mentioned that you have this passionate love for learning, so I would expect that you actually enjoyed school growing up. But I can understand why
Yeah.
not, because if you have the wrong teacher, he or she can turn you off, and yeah.
Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, elementary school, I enjoyed elementary school. But then, going to middle school and high school, I just, yeah, I wasn't the kid who loved it. I got by. I did what I needed to do to get by.
Okay.
But when I went to college, I loved college. And I actually got a bachelor's in finance, which is hilarious because I've never used that degree ever, like ever. And I knew that I was never going to use it.
So
But
is it for you also your degree, the most expensive piece of paper you have in your life?
yeah, yeah,
Same
yep,
for me, yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
And one of the reasons I loved college was actually because I had a professor my freshman year. It was a marketing class, I think it was a marketing class, some business class, and um, he taught using stories and using movie
Oh,
clips,
love that.
and he used current movies, and it was so engaging. It
Oh
was
yes.
absolutely amazing. And I went to Penn State, so we were in like auditoriums, like
Oh
1,000
yeah.
kids
Oh yeah.
in one class. And it was that really opened my eyes to what real learning is. It's not like a textbook. It's not
Yeah.
answering different questions. It's really thinking about things differently.
Thinking, yeah.
Excuse me, I keep coughing, but
No
um,
worries.
but yeah, so I really started loving school when I was in college, and also the
Okay.
freedom, right?
Oh
Picking my
yes.
classes, picking the times of classes.
Learning what
Um,
you want to learn. Yes,
mhm.
absolutely.
Yeah, and
Awesome.
you know what I did in college? All my
Mm.
spare time,
Yes.
I babysat. That's what I did. I
No
babysat.
wonder. Yeah.
that
Wow.
was that was how I, how I made money. I connected with a couple families, and every spare minute. I even had car seats in my car when I was in college. I'm not even joking.
Wow. That's
So yeah,
funny.
yeah,
That's awesome. All
yeah.
right. So now let's talk more about school. What would you say was your favorite subject in school?
So in high school, it was French.
You parles français?
And yes. And the reason why I loved
Ah.
that class so much was our teacher was was just so kind, and she was so
Mm.
nice. And it was a small group, and everybody in that class really got to know each other. It wasn't high pressure. It wasn't like the stakes were high. We really learned through experiencing things and talking about things and using the language in different ways. I can't remember one quiz or one test that we ever took in that class, but it was just such a fun experience, and the teacher really connected with all of us. I remember seeing her at the grocery store years after, graduating, and she remembered me every time, and we would
Wow.
chat, and so yeah, that was definitely my favorite class.
Awesome. That
Yeah.
warms my heart because I grew up in France and French is my native language and all that. But so it always warms my heart to see someone that shares a passion for my language. So wonderful. We'll talk French after. Okay, awesome. Okay. Now, what would you say was the one subject you could not stand at all?
Well, when I started college, I was pre-med. I was biology, right? I was going to be a pediatrician,
Yes.
and chemistry,
Oh yeah.
yeah, chemistry just stopped me in my tracks. I could not figure out how to balance the equations and like all of that stuff. And then I realized that I love kids, right?
Mm.
I love kids, and I tried to go into teaching, but that's a whole other story. And I ended up going into finance, but yeah, chemistry, I just couldn't. I just couldn't figure it out.
Okay.
So
Awesome. You mentioned doing babysitting. Would you say that was your very first job or you did something else before?
that was my very first job. I started
Okay.
babysitting when I was 11.
Oh
And
wow.
actually, yeah, yeah, which I can't imagine because my daughter is 10. When I was 11 years old, I was literally home alone with a 18-month 2-year old. I was like cooking her lunch and dinner and putting her to sleep. And I mean, when I was
Wow.
11, and she's actually, she was in my wedding. She was one of my bridesmaids, and
Nice.
she's actually getting married soon. So we're
Awesome.
we're still connected. But yeah, that was my very first job.
So would you usually go to their places or they would bring the baby to your house or
Yeah, so we lived right across the street. So
oh
I would
okay.
usually
The
I would
neighbors.
usually
Okay,
go
they
there.
know you. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Cool. Now, let's see. Let's talk now about your path from the moment you left college to now. How would you describe your path? Would you say it was pretty much straightforward once you get into one lane, one industry, one career was the same thing all over? Or would you say it more like a roller coaster with turns and twists along the way?
Mhm. So it was a really nice straight path for 10 years.
Mm.
So after college, I went right into the New York City Teaching Fellows program. I started teaching in Manhattan. Got went to grad school there, and then moved to New Jersey, teaching jobs. I was a middle school math teacher for 10 years, and it was like very straight path. And my 10th year, I ended up getting really sick with nobody could figure it out. So I just kind of self-diagnosed as chronic stress. And what happened in knowing what I know now, when my daughter was born in 2012, she was born 2 months premature, and that month in the NICU, and in just the struggle of being a mom to a preemie, she was my first child, was really hard, and there was a lot of trauma involved with the whole experience. So I didn't process it. I didn't even know. I didn't know what I didn't know, and about 18 months later, it all came up, and all the symptoms started, and all the things started erupting. So from there, it's been literally a roller coaster, turns, twists, falling off the track, falling back on the track. I mean, it's been a crazy ride since in the last couple years.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially past couple of years. Absolutely. Wow. Now, let's move forward. I'm sure you're the saying, change your story, change your life. And by story, I mean what we keep on telling ourselves on a daily basis inside our 2 years. So when you, Dawn, had to change your story, either to change your life or bring your life to where you want it to be, how did you do it? Did you do it through the help of friends, relatives, mentors, books? So tell us the process that you used to change your story in order to change your life.
Well, in 2017, excuse me, when I was when I got really sick, I had to leave teaching. I just couldn't keep up with the demands, physically. So I had a few different jobs in curriculum and design and professional development, still in the education space. And in 2017, I decided that I was going to start my own business. I really had this big dream in my heart to, be home with my kids, to have this huge impact in the world, and to be able to create. That was huge for me. I needed the space to create, right, and to connect with people. And so I started with hiring a coach, and that was the best way for me to really understand myself. That first year, there was just a lot of self exploration. Not enough, but there was a lot, and that was really what I needed to do at that time. And yeah, so hiring coaches, mentors, listening to podcasts. I joined a few communities where I connected with people who were farther along the path than me, who were like the cheerleaders and the inspiration and the peers, right? Like the people working side by side with me at the same place that we could connect and really help each other move forward. So the coaching and the mentors and connecting with others, I mean, that was essential for me to start to believe in myself and to believe that I had what it took, even though I come from a family where nobody's an entrepreneur. Nobody has their own business. So there definitely wasn't support on that end in terms of, um, yeah, you can do this. Like you could start your own business. You could be, successful and things like that.
That's awesome. I think it was very powerful for you to get a coach early on because you understand that we all need a coach. Even the best of the best needs a coach because, there's always someone a couple of steps ahead of us to guide us, to motivate us, to be a cheerleader for us. And we all need that, regardless of what level you are,
Mm-hmm.
whether you're just starting, even with the highest level, even CEOs and guys like Michael Jordan, they have a coach because they need it. Everybody needs that. So absolutely. Wow. Amazing. Now, tell us now about your business. Tell us about the good, all the wonderful impact and beautiful transformations you're creating around you.
Mm-hmm. So my business, excuse me,
No
let me
worries.
grab a little bit of water. Um, so my business took a huge pivot in 2021 when I listened to a podcast and somebody mentioned how they never, ever, ever make a decision in their business without consulting what phase the moon is in.
Oh
And I was
wow.
like, wait, hold on a second. What is this? Like, how did I never learn about this before? Like, why is this just coming into my life? And that podcast was completely life changing. So I went totally down the rabbit hole. They mentioned a book in the podcast. I bought the book, that minute I when it arrived, I dove in and I started learning all about this thing called moonology and aligning with the cycles of the moon, for more ease, for more flow, for more healing, for more results in your business, right? To open up to receive. And once I started understanding this, I became so curious about it that I actually went through the certification to become a moonologer, which is super fun. And then I decided that I was going to really keep track of my journey and keep track of my intentions and really start to live this way, embody this, and really integrate this lifestyle because I always thought I was living a conscious life, right? But I had no idea the impact that the moon has on our energy level in particular, but I mean, in so many different ways. So, so yeah, once I started sharing and connecting with people and helping people understand their unique signs, their sun sign, their moon sign, their rising sign, how things work together, how the energies of the moon affect us in different ways, um, my business just like totally took off in a way that was really unexpected. So I feel like for many years, Payman, as an EFT practitioner, and then in 2019, getting certified as an EFT master practitioner, I always felt like I was pushing, like I was struggling, like I was pulling, pushing a rock up the hill. Like I had to work really, really, really hard to get results. Like I had a lot of stories in my head, and that was the way that I was living, right? I was just like, that was my competitive advantage. I thought was just like, I'll put more hours in, I'll work harder, I'll work on the weekends. And so once I started talking about the moon, and helping support people in understanding this, I mean, I have probably 5 people every day reaching out to me to learn more, and people joining my membership, um, connecting with people, referrals, and it's just been such a different experience for me because we talk about stories. I always had this story that it was hard. Like business is hard, getting momentum is hard, making progress is hard, and it really doesn't have to be. Like when we're so passionate and excited and aligned and inspired, like to share and to give and um, to help others, right, see these different things that we love so much, and we're open to receiving, we're open to receiving more than we could possibly imagine. I mean, things just flow in such
Totally.
a different way. So yeah, so that's my business, helping people align with the cycles of the moon, helping them understand their signs, their sun sign, their moon sign, their rising sign, so that they can work with the energies and they can have way more flow, way more ease, much less resistance, and really start to see those results. So
Oh, phenomenal.
yeah.
This is one of the part that I love the most about the podcast is learning about areas I didn't even knew existed. Prior to talking to you tonight, I had no idea something like monology even existed. If someone say monology, wait, what? What are you talking about? What's that? So two couple of quick questions before we even go further into that. You mentioned a podcast that changed your life and a book. What podcast was it and which book is it? I'm gonna go and check it out myself.
Okay. So the podcast is by James Wedmore.
James.
So the last name is Wedmore. So James Wedmore, and it's
Okay.
the Mind Your Business podcast.
Mind.
And the episode I can share with you. I don't know the exact number, but I can definitely find that out for you. And so that was the podcast that like they mentioned the Moonology, and I was like, what? And the book is Moonology. I don't have it down here, but it's Moonology by Yasmin Boland. So it's Yasmin and Boland Boland.
All right, I'll check it out myself later, right after this call. And I'm probably gonna end up once again. I have a whole collection of books piling up, and I have no time, But it's okay. I'll get the book because I just whatever. I'm just like a book
Yeah.
junkie collector, just like you. That's
Yes.
awesome. So now let's talk about your business. Tell us about the structure of your business. So how does it work? Is it one-on-one? Is it small groups? Is it big groups? Is it video coaching? And how long is the process of when someone joins your program? Is it like a 3 weeks, 1 month, 3 months, 1 year? Tell us about the length, the structure. Tell us about everything about your program because I'm super excited. I'm super intrigued. I want to know as much as possible about it. And I'm sure people listening to it and watching will be the same. So give us all the goods.
Yeah. So usually what I do is if somebody's interested in diving a little bit deeper, or they're really curious about, their signs and their unique chart, I do a 30-minute call, private, one-to-one session over Zoom typically. I've never done one in person yet, but we typically meet over Zoom. I walk them through their signs. We talk about the different aspects of their signs. They look at their chart, their houses, And sometimes we'll walk through like a 1 to 3 month plan based on how the energies of the moon are affecting them in particular. But we do this typically in a 30-minute chunk. And if they're interested in going deeper into the work, because working with the moon, I mean, the moon is constantly changing, right? Every couple days, the moon is in a different phase. And every month, we have a new moon and we have a full moon. And it's like everything is changing. There's a cycle, there's a rhythm. And so this work is continuous. It's a journey. And when we're aligning with the cycles of the moon in 1 year, we would have worked on and we would have released. So focused on, released in every single area of our life. So it's really, really fun to see. Like we have a plan when we're following this. We have an actual plan for self development, for business growth. And so if somebody after that session is interested in learning more, they typically would go into my membership community. So in the membership community, we have lots of opportunities every month to really stay connected to our intentions around the new moon time. That's when we pause, we take a look at the moon, how it's affecting us in particular for that month. We set specific intentions, connecting back to, our big vision and our big intention, right? And so every month there's lots of opportunities for intention setting, for the inner work. We talk about meditation and that importance of that inner work all the time, identifying, releasing those patterns and the judgments, and we have collective calls for meditation. We have lots of opportunities for group members to get together. We have wisdom circles that we're starting now that are member led to highlight the different gifts within the community. And the idea, Payman, throughout this whole process with the membership is that people are consistently plugged in to their intentions. So getting clear on what we want, right? I'm always so surprised at how much resistance people have about goal setting or setting intentions, because of all the baggage that we often carry when we think about goals. I mean, it's amazing how many people are resistant to setting goals, but setting intentions is different. But we're just constantly plugged in to ourselves, to the inner work, to the aligned action, to the energies of the phases, to make sure that we're aligned with the energies. We're not like hustling or working really, really hard during certain phases when the moon and the cycle is encouraging us to really pause and reflect and release. So, there's just different. So we are, so the membership is definitely the next step. And then if somebody wants to go deeper, I do have a 3-month package of private coaching, 1-to-1, where we can really work on, their like lunar alignment plan.
Awesome.
But those are really the three main ways to start. And if anybody's interested in just dipping their toes in, or they're like, what is this craziness? Because that's totally what I thought at first too. I was like, moonology, like really, what,
Yeah.
then I do offer those free calls, which people tend to really find a lot of value in and learn about themselves a little bit more.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure I can imagine when you meet people and they ask you, so Don, what do you do? And you tell them I'm a what is it? Moonologer? Moonologer?
Moonologer.
Moonologer. So I'm sure you must be getting like some reaction. What the hell is that? Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I actually honestly don't quite know what to say when people ask me that.
I study the
And my
moon and how it affects people.
Yeah, yeah. But luckily, I guess because I'm not out and about too often, people
Yeah.
don't usually ask me that. But my daughter actually, she will say like, "Mom, some people like their parents are teachers or their parents are police officers or their parents are, something like, what do you do? Like, what do I say when someone's like, what
How do
does
you
your mom
explain
do?"
that to a 10-year-old or whatever, 6-year-old? Yeah, that's a big
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Wow,
So
amazing.
it's funny.
You know what? You were talking, I was just going in my mind that I did speak around the end of July with another wonderful lady on my podcast that is also doing monology. Her name is Tracy. Let me see. Tracy Rambling Brown. She's from Australia but
Oh,
lives in Italy. Do you know her?
I do. She was actually when I first
Wow.
joined Moonology, when I first joined the
Ah, okay.
certification, I had a session with her.
Okay.
And
She's amazing.
yeah, she's become one of my really good friends. Yeah,
Okay.
that's awesome.
I was about to suggest if you want, I can connect you too, but I guess I'm too late. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. Small
Thank
world, huh?
you.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, what would you say is your ideal client avatar?
So my ideal, the person who is working so hard,
Mm,
like working so hard in their business, because I mean I was there, that was me, and working with the moon, right, just shifted everything for me. So somebody who's working really hard, who is struggling with energy, right? One day things are so good, they're super focused, and then the next day they're struggling, right? Their thoughts are racing, their ideas are all over the place, and they can't seem to take action. um Excuse me,
no worries.
1 second, I'm sorry, Payman.
No worries.
So somebody who is struggling, who just feels like they're working so hard, they're not seeing the results they want, and they are interested in doing something a little different. They're interested in looking at their business in a different way, open and curious to learning new things. I mean, I know for Moonology, right, is not for everybody, but it's for somebody who's curious and open minded. It could be something really awesome for them to explore if they want to just connect with that energy and really optimize their own energy, align with the moon's energy, and have more balance. So that's one of the
Wow.
beautiful things about working with the cycle, the moon cycles. It gives us that balance. So we're not supposed to be hustling and working long hours every single day. It's just not what our bodies are meant to
When
do.
someone would get for the first time into monology as a client first, usually I know it varies from person to person, but on average, how long does it take for them? Someone, for example, if I were to get into that to get a consultation with you, how long would it get for me, for example, to see actual results in my business, my life?
I mean, it could be right away. It could
Okay.
be months down the road. One thing that we do is we always track our intentions.
Mm,
So we have like a moon manifestation, journal, and every single new moon and every single full moon, we're tracking our intentions, and we're always going back to reflect, because it's amazing what we forget, right? We plant those
oh
seeds and
yes.
set the intentions, and then we forget about it. We don't realize how powerful we are. So Payment, some people see things manifest instantly, and some people, it takes a little while. And some people, have set their intentions months ago and still haven't seen the results, but they're starting to see progress and momentum towards that. They're starting to see that the ball is rolling. So it really depends. And it also depends on, how focused and how committed and how clear you are on that intention. Um, and that matters so much as well. So, yeah, it really depends.
Absolutely. Wow, that's intriguing. Now, let's talk about transformation because, as far as I'm concerned, the greatest reward you can get from any business you are is not the monetary financial gain, but the actual transformation you see in the lives of the people you help. So, and you've been doing that for a while. So, share with us, if you don't mind, an example of the most remarkable transformation you've seen from one of your clients so far.
Yeah. Okay. So, one of my favorite success stories ever is one of my very first EFT clients. So, when I first got certified in EFT, the VA approved EFT as a form of treatment for post traumatic stress, right? For
Wow.
PTSD, PTS. And I connected with somebody through mutual friends. He was a two-time combat veteran, very young guy, retired, medically retired, dealing with a lot of physical issues. That was his big
Sure.
thing. And so we connected. He was open to trying EFT, which was really exciting. I was so excited for the opportunity to just share this with him. And right from our first session, we started to process some of these bigger emotions, like anger was a big one. And he was very, very diligent about doing the homework that I gave him and really connecting with this outside of our sessions. And by the third session, he had zero gut issues. And in the past, he had like 12 colonoscopies. He had surgery, like multiple surgeries for issues. He was basically allergic to everything, could barely eat. Like, I mean, it was his diet was so strict and so limited. And by our third session, he had no food allergies. He had zero issues with his gut. There was no pain in his gut, and it was shocking. And so that was that as a new practitioner, that was so eye opening for me, and it was an amazing transformation for him to see how much his life changed. You know, and we continued working together for quite a while, and a lot of his symptoms from post traumatic stress were completely resolved. You know, in our time together.
Beautiful.
So that was a lot of fun. It was, yeah, that was one of my favorite case studies, and we're still connected years later. And we even traveled together. We went to a conference together, and it was in Tampa a couple years ago, which was a lot of fun. So yeah, very very neat experience, but definitely one of my favorite stories.
That's amazing. Wow. When you
Yeah,
see transformation like that and someone like this who served the country and all that, that's the greatest, reward and the greatest type of business to be in because you're actually transforming lives, you're changing lives. And there's nothing better as far as I'm concerned in terms of reward than transformation for the better. Absolutely. Wow. I
yeah.
salute you for that. That's amazing, especially for people like that who really went through a lot of crap. Absolutely. I salute you. I don't have a hat on me, but chapeau.
Oh,
You know, seriously.
well, he's the real hero because
Oh, yes.
he was open, right? That's the thing.
Yes.
Like when we're open to trying something new, um, our life can change, right? So it was, yeah,
Just like the saying, it takes two to
amazing.
tango. If one person is not willing or ready, then nothing's gonna happen. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Listen, I love talking to you. Wow, that's amazing. But let's move forward now and let's start to wrapping things up. Now, tell us, well, let's talk about cause and impact. The theme of this podcast is building impactful businesses. What would you say is a cause that is deep to your heart?
That's a great question. A cause that's deep to my heart is, I mean, the environment right now is something that's on my mind in a huge way because of
Yes.
all these things that are happening and that have been happening, right, for the last couple of years. And so one of the the things I really love about what I'm doing now, helping people align with the moon, is that the people in my community, the members of my community, are starting to develop really deep relationships with nature, Mother Earth, right? Our planet. And my hope is that this deeper connection really ripples out in so many different ways um, to taking better care of our environment, right? There's so many ways we can all do better, right, in terms of how we're living and the impact that we're having on the environment. So my hope in what I'm doing and in the work that I'm doing is to really have a huge to make a huge difference in our relationship and our connection with our environment, and also to help people welcome more abundance into their life, right, to step into more financial freedom. More, I mean, I've seen so many members manifesting money and abundance, in so many different ways, and the impact that that has on themselves, on their families, on their communities, on on the world, is really powerful as well.
I love that. Yes, the environment is definitely a big one. We all need to become aware of it. It's not something that doesn't affect us. It's probably one of the only thing that affects every single one of us, 8 billion people on this planet. Because if the environment is destroyed, we won't have a home. We won't have a planet
Hmm.
to live on. Maybe it's going to affect us in our lifetime. It's going to definitely affect our kids and our kids, grandkids and so on and so forth. Within, in my opinion, I think it's we have a window of maybe 1 or 2 generation. If you don't do anything, the consequences are going to be very dark for our future generations. So we need to get our acts together and stop taking nature for granted. Stop destroying, like for example, the Amazon, the reefs. There's a lot of countries that are doing bad things. Like for example, I'm not going to get politics, but Having lived in China for a few years, I've seen how the Chinese illegal fishing, fleets are destroying the not only the marine but all the fish around the world, and that's something that all these eco-friendly, whatever environment talks. They never mentioned that about China because they're all afraid of China. They all be in the pockets of China. But the first country that we need to ask them to really do something about it is China. They're the biggest polluter in the world. I lived in China. I've seen it. The only place in the world where I saw a yellow sky was in Beijing. And that was not because of the glass I was wearing, because you couldn't, when I was living there, even though I was living in so-called the clean city, Hangzhou, a lot of I almost forgot after a while what a blue sky looked like. And only when I moved back to Hong Kong, outside of all the pollution in China, they actually remembered, hey, this is actually what a blue sky looks like. We
Oh
need to bring
wow.
that up. We need to so to speak, grow some balls, especially our leaders, and point the finger, not to blame the country, but to let them know, hey, we're all together. It's not us against China. We're all on the same planet. It's not like China lives in a different planet. We all share the same world, the same environment. Let's work
Mm-hmm.
together. Let's yes, we can use the resources, but in a way that's eco-friendly, that we don't destroy. Sure, you're allowed to fish, but do it in a mindful way. Do it in a way that you can respect the environment. So yes, we need to do that, because if we don't do that, then will have nothing. Our world is going to turn into Mad Max, and that's the last thing we want. We want things to happen. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm also very passionate because I actually lived it. I saw it with my own eyes. I'm not talking from just what I read. I actually lived there for 4 years, so I saw things with my own eyes. That if this is what if we continue the way we're going, then this every country in the world is going to be what China is now within 5 and 10 years, and that's definitely not what we want our planet to be. Because if the entire planet reaches that point, then that's going to be game over. It's going to be the point of no return.
Mm-hmm.
That's my rant of the day. It's not a rant. It's just that, just sharing what I've seen after living in China for 4 years. Don't get me wrong. I love China, the country. I had an amazing experience. Made some incredible friendships. But we have an expression in French that says you got to call a cat a cat. You can't call a cat an elephant. When something is wrong, you got to point it out. And pointing out something doesn't mean you're against it. It's just that we all have issues, we all have problems, but we need to be mature enough to acknowledge it so we can improve it, we can fix it, we can address it.
Mm.
And the sooner we do that, the better it's going to be. Because again, we live in a global planet. It's not that whatever happens to your country doesn't affect me. It's your business, your problem. No, it's everybody's business, because we all in the same, so to speak. It's just like living in your house. You have one room that is occupied by, let's say, a sibling or a neighbor that doesn't respect the house. Before long, the entire house is going to burn down if we don't address it. And again, when you address the problem, doesn't mean that you're against them. No, you're not against them. You're working together. You love them, and you want them to acknowledge that, so we can all live peacefully in an environment that we can all share. And you know so yeah, so that's my, again, not trying to get political, but that's something that we definitely, all of us, need to, in my opinion, that's a big elephant in the room. So next time we have these events, we need to
Mm.
point out, not to point out, not to blame, but to let know, hey, what is China doing to change that? What is China doing to affect that? Sure, now they're shutting down all the factories because they want to have a clean environment for the Beijing Olympics. But as soon as the Olympics is over, they're gonna turn on all the the coal and all that, and it's gonna be back again to yellow skies and dark skies. Like for the winter over there is awful, because I live in a city that it doesn't get cold. I'm Canadian, so I know what real cold is. But even when it's 5 degrees, the days are very dark. It's really gloomy. It's really depressing. You know, and all of that because of
Mm-hmm.
all the pollution around you. You would, God forbid, you were to see. There's no more rivers left in China, because the rivers have turned into, in the same sense, you see all those rivers completely polluted with all this acid. There's no fish left in the, and the rivers, because there's no control. But again, I don't want this to turn into politics, so let's turn turn the page. But yeah, absolutely agree with you. The environment is definitely probably one of the most pressing issues we all have to face. Every
Mm-hmm.
single one of, I don't know how many people are on the world, 7, 8 billion, whatever. That's something that's probably one of the only thing that affects every single one of us,
Hmm.
regardless of citizenship, beliefs, or religion, or color, or no. It affects all of us because, as far as I know, we only have one planet to live for us right now. Maybe in the future we will be a multi-planetary species, but for now we're not. So we need to take
Hmm.
care of our own house.
Hmm.
And this house is of all of us, whether you're Chinese, you're American, Canadian, Afghan, whatever you are. This is our house for all of us.
Yeah. And there's so many things that we can all do. There's so many things that we can do.
Yeah,
Little things that we can do that is going to add up
totally.
to a big difference. So,
Yeah, and I'm not
mhm.
big in math, but one thing I do understand is one plus one in math is two. But in real life, when two people are completely aligned, it exponentially exploded becomes 11. Three people is not three, but 111. Four people is not four, but 1,111 people. So absolutely, we can all do
Yeah.
a little bit. No amount of you do, no action is small enough. Even the tiniest action matters. So do what
Hmm.
you can, even if it's not littering, not throwing, whatever, plastic, whatever you're doing, cigarette, whatever. Just don't do it. Just pick it up. Just be mindful for the planet because this is our only house we all have. Just like
Hmm.
you don't throw plastic garbage inside your living room. Why should you do it outside? You know.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I'm glad you mentioned that
Yeah.
because that is something very powerful, very important. We all need to take care of that as soon as possible. Thank you for bringing that up.
You're welcome.
All right. So now let's finish this off. I love talking to you, but let's wrap things off. Let me ask you now a series of rapid fire questions on advices. Ready?
Okay.
All right. So what would you say has been so far the best piece of advice you've received?
Well, Tyson Sharp,
Oh
meditate
yes.
every day.
Oh
Meditate every
yes.
day. And if you don't
Love
think you
that.
have time, meditate for longer.
That's one thing
If
I
you're
need to
pressed
do
for
myself.
time, make it an hour. Every other day, you can make it like 45 minutes.
Oh yes. That's one advice I need to take myself as well. Thank you for reminding me. Now, what would you say has been
Yes.
so far the worst piece of advice you've received?
Oh, um, business wise, I would say the advice of being on social media constantly. Like you got to be posting every day. You got to be doing this every day. You got to be doing that every day. You have to make it work for you. You have to have fun in your business. You have to show up in a way that's aligned. You do have to plan. You do have to have strategy, but you got to make it work for you. So I struggled a lot with trying to do it certain ways and not doing it the right way or not being able to stick to it and then all the guilt and shame, this whole spiral downhill. So make it work for you, connect with people, help people, share your knowledge with people, and make it fun.
Love that. Now imagine that you were blessed with a time machine and you can go back in time and sit face to face with the 18-year-old Dawn. What what's the first piece of it? The number one piece of advice you would give to her, knowing all that you know now?
Oh, that's so good. um, Number one piece of advice is create the life you love.
Mm.
Create the life you love, believe in yourself, take the vacations, take the risks.
Go explore.
It's all happening for you.
Go explore the world, young Dora. Go explore.
Yes. Exactly.
Love
Exactly.
that. Now, do you have your own podcast?
I am starting one soon. So next month.
Ooh,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Awesome. Excited. Now,
Yep.
imagine that your podcast is running. Let's move forward a month from now. And today, you have the most special guest in the world, which is yourself. So you're interviewing yourself. What's the number one question, the first question you want to ask yourself? Don't think too much. What is the first question that comes to your mind? Don't think too much. The first question that comes to mind.
Why um why did you keep going when things were so hard?
Mm,
So what was inside of you that kept telling you like keep going, keep going? I mean, I struggled so much in my business payment for
oh,
for
yes. We all
years.
have. We all have.
And yeah, and it's like why? What was inside of your heart that inspired you to keep going when everybody else was saying, just give it up, get a job. You're so
Yes.
smart, you're so talented. Like, why are you working so hard? With little results. So, yeah, I would ask myself that. Like, what was burning inside your soul that kept telling you,
What's
you
the
got
answer?
this. You could do this.
What's the answer?
My like I That's a good question.
What was your why?
I
What was your fire? Was it your kids, your
Yeah,
family? Was it
my
for you to prove to others that you can make it? What was your fire?
my fire is that I'm born to help people.
Ah,
I'm
love
born
that.
to, like, it's just inside my soul to connect others. It's inside my soul to show others, to show my kids, especially my daughter, that we can work hard and keep going even when things aren't so easy. Um, if we believe in ourselves and we keep taking steps forward, like, it has to work. Our success is inevitable. We
Certainly.
cannot give up on ourselves, even though we get in our own way all the time. We cannot give up on ourselves.
Golden words. Absolutely. I agree with that. Now, my favorite question, and I gave you a glimpse earlier. What's the smallest thing you've done that has had the greatest positive impact in both your life and your business? And by small, I don't mean something small. I mean the one thing you've done that has the biggest impact. For me, it's been this, starting this podcast. What about you?
Yeah. For me, meditation every day,
Oh, wow.
no matter what, every single day, no matter what. Working with Tyson has, I mean, completely changed my life. Learning the meditation process, identifying my patterns, releasing resistance, tension, judgments, attachments, like on a daily basis, every day, right? Connecting with my soul, healing, becoming whole again, right? Yeah. That has hands down been the most life changing thing. The one thing that I've done every single day consistently for many months that has put my life on a completely different path.
All right, you convinced me. I've always wanted to do meditation, but for some reason, I don't know why, I've always hesitant. But now I say, okay, starting from tonight and tomorrow, I need to start, even if it's 5 minutes. I need to meditate, and then each week add an extra 5 minutes to it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's
Now, let me ask you one question for me. I know you're super kind, super sweet, and all, but for this question, I want you to be very direct. Give me tough love. Tell me, do you have any tips for me to improve my podcast? Don't hold back. Give it up. Give it straight to me.
um possibly, I mean, this could go either way, but possibly providing questions ahead of time.
Okay.
That could be something, but it could also maybe take away from the conversational
Yeah,
component of
exactly.
things. So it's really, um, um, I don't know, Payman. I loved the conversation. I loved being here. I love the questions that you're
Same here.
asking.
Thank you.
So it's, yeah. I mean, it really. I think that you've done an amazing job with the interview. So
Thank you. I appreciate
yeah.
that. Pleasure's all mine. Thank you. Now, if someone wants to connect with you, Don, what's the best way to do so? Give us all your links, social media, so we can give you as much opportunity for people to connect with you.
So the easiest way to connect with me is on Instagram, and
Okay.
it's just at Dawn Pensack, my name.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I'd love to invite you to schedule a call, a 30-minute call. They're called Moon Guidance Sessions, and it's on my Instagram profile. But the link is dawnpensack.com/moon guidance, and you can register, you can book a call, we can dive into your unique astrology and how the energies of the moon affect you specifically, and how you can use the moon for planning purposes in your business and in your personal life. So those are the two things that I'd love to invite you to. I'd love to connect with you. Send me a message on Instagram if there was something in the podcast that kind of sparked your curiosity or intrigued you in some way. um, yeah, so that is definitely the best way to reach me.
Awesome. I'll definitely put all of these links in the show notes. So, listen, Don, it's been an absolute blast and honor connecting with you, talking to you. Love your story, love your mission, your passion, your contagious, fun and joyful vibe and all that. And I absolutely love what you're doing because moonology. So how do you say it again? Moonologer, moonologer,
Moonologer, I think.
moonologer. Okay.
Moonologer.
So moon specialist. Okay, moon specialist or whatever. Moon reader, moonwalker. Ooh, do you know how to do the moonwalk?
Don't. I'm
All
not
right.
that talented, but
Okay. All right. So listen, I salute you. You're a true leader with a heart. Keep shining your light. Keep blessing the world with your presence, with your impact, with all the beautiful things you're doing. Stay safe. Stay awesome. God bless you, my friend. We'll definitely keep in touch and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye bye.
thank you so much, Payman.
Pleasure's all mine. Bye bye. Ciao.